Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slavers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And article came out recently that I find really interesting, particularly in the context of President Trump promising to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. and basically, specifically addressing a lot of U.S. corporations that operate in China. And uh, contrary to the narrative that we hear, U.S. companies plan to stay in China is the headline of this article. And a bunch of surveys were done of American corporations that operate in China, and not a single company would move manufacturing from China back to the United States. And they said they wouldn't do it even if tariffs reached 100%. And of course, Chinese tariffs on Chinese goods have now risen to the area between 100%, 145%, up to 200%, including a bunch of new tariffs uh, put on China recently. So instead of leaving China, actually all these corporations in the survey said they plan to accelerate uh, all their plans to relocate to China. So not only are these American corporations not going to move out of China, they have plans to relocate even more of their operations to China. And so that's pretty stunning, particularly in this narrative. As I mentioned, that Donald Trump is going to somehow get a lot of American companies to leave China. In fact, on multiple occasions, he's bragged about the fact that a lot of manufacturing is moving back to the U.S. and intimating that a lot of American corporations are going to pull up stakes in China and move back to the U.S. And it's certainly not going to happen. And these surveys prove it. And it's a survey of 368 U.S. companies that operate in China, and none of them have plans to move from China anytime soon, even if there's massive tariffs. So that says a lot. And I thought the reasons why they want to stay in China are interesting too, because it has a lot of implications about the U.S. economy and also President Trump's promises. And one, of course, is the size of the Chinese market. Uh, these companies have a lot of impetus to stay in China and to operate locally and to uh, provide goods and services to the Chinese market because it's infinitely larger than the U.S. and is becoming more so as the Chinese middle class grows and gains more buying power. And then, interestingly enough, the supply chains and logistics are better in China. And that's something we know about because we've seen a lot of editorials, and we've seen a lot of economists and corporate heads and politicians talking about the fact that we have a lot of serious supply chain issues and logistics issues in the United States. And China's been very smart and pragmatic about maintaining excellent logistics and supply chains, and that makes it a lot more convenient and efficient for corporations working in China, and it also makes it uh, a lot simpler for them as well to produce goods in China and ship them overseas and export them because the supply chain and logistics are so efficient in China. And then the big shocker at the end of this list is the fact that they have a highly skilled workforce in China, and that's something that is shocking to hear, but is not hard to believe. The quality of the American workforce has deteriorated over decades and decades because a lot of the manufacturing has moved out of the U.S. And people in the United States, frankly, just don't know how to build things anymore. We don't really have the capacity to change the fact that 1.50 to 70% of all clothing was made in the U.S. and now we have 2% of the market. The United States shipbuilding internationally is about 1% now. China's building 80 to 90% of the ships in the world now. And so American workers just are not trained to do a lot of this kind of work now. And China's been very pragmatic and smart and efficient about making sure that they have a highly skilled workforce, not only to supply American companies, but also to supply Chinese companies. And it's also a lot more important to them because in the U.S., when we have a depressed economy and an unskilled workforce, there's not going to be any civil unrest really. People will whine and complain, but they're not going to do anything about it. But in China, they're very realistic. If they don't train their workforce and the people are not getting jobs in China, then they could have some very serious civil unrest. So once again, China is being very smart and pragmatic about the whole thing. So anyway, what a eye opener! The fact that 368 American corporations operating in China have no plans whatsoever and to leave China and bring manufacturing back to the U.S. And in fact, they have extensive plans to continue to relocate their operations in China. So that's a big reality check and definitely is contrary to the Trump narrative. I'm a useful idiot, don't you be one too?